Michael, you're listening to The Michael Dresser Show. Lisa Crilley Mallis with us, the author of Your Time, Your Life, The Busy Woman's Guide to Simplifying Your Day. She's a time strategy visionary. Don't ask me to say that 10 times fast. Combines her experience in education and direct sales with her love of schedules, systems, and time management to create personalized and easy to implement solutions. Every person deserves the opportunity to live the life of their dreams, feeling in control and bringing balance into their lives. The crazy "I'm so busy" feeling does not have to be a way of life, and you can live a life where every day is productive, rewarding, and fun. Lisa, again, is the author of Your Time, Your Life, The Busy Woman's Guide to Simplify Your Day and 30 Days to Succeed. And let us say, Lisa, hi, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, and thank you so much for being here. You know what? It really comes down to it. We live in this microwavable, fast-paced, you got to get it done 3 hours ago world, and people are taught to do that. And then someday something happens to you, and you sit down, and 30 years pass by, and you didn't even see it go, and your life's almost over. And that should not happen to us.
Absolutely. You sound like you looked at my life before I became a time strategy visionary.
But it happens, you know, and I found this with authors, that when it comes down to it, and I'm an author myself, so I don't speak about other people, but when it comes down to it, what you write about is yourself. And I don't care if it's fact, fun, fiction, fantasy, there is you in there, and it's your story, and it happens to be symbolized through whatever else. But it's true. How can you write about a thing if you haven't lived it?
Absolutely.
Now, when did this happen for you? When was that cathartic moment that said, oops, I've got to slow down. It's not getting me where I want to go?
It was about 10 years ago, and then it took me about 6 more to listen and make a change. But I was living that very busy life, doing a lot, and finishing my to-do list every day, but not realizing that though I was moving quickly, I wasn't going anywhere.
Yeah. And
so after having a health crisis, it forced me to slow down. But I thought, once you get quote unquote better, you think everything, you can go back to the way it was.
Yeah.
And then I started to realize I didn't want to go back to the way it was. And so then that's when I made a change.
It's interesting when you go through the transition, when you make that change, the you who you've always been starts to come out. I think when we get through those problems, the rush and do it all, and by the end of the day, you don't even know what would happen during the day, and you just basically wasted your life. Once we go through those things, and it's time to stop, who you are comes out, and that's where I think the magic happens.
Yes, I agree.
Yeah, we are ourselves, and did you... rhetorically, you don't have to answer the question, but did you know who Lisa was until that time when you said enough is enough?
No, actually, I didn't. My identity was very much tied up in what I did, but not in who I was.
Yeah. Oh,
and
big difference.
That outside force, yeah.
Yeah, we get so tied up in it. I grew up in a world where, you were cool if you had this great car, and the girls liked you if you had the car. But there was always the question, what happens if the car disappears? Who were you then? And that's what life is like. I think one of the great examples of that was Jack Nicholson in About Schmidt. Did you see the movie?
Yes.
Yeah, his identity was, the corporations and whatever, and when he retired, he lost himself. And I think what you said is so important. It's not what you do, it's who you are.
Absolutely. And when people would say, tell me about you, I always led with my job.
Yeah.
Well, there's a lot more to me than that.
Yeah.
But at the time, I didn't recognize it.
No. And then when it hit, what started it? Where was that moment for you where life changed?
I was working, I was in high school administration, so I was working a lot of hours, probably close to 70 a week. Plus, I was leading a team of women in a direct sales industry. And then all of a sudden, I became very ill and was forced to take off an extended period of time so that my body could recover. And that when you're laying in bed It
Yeah.
has nothing to do but think.
That's
You
the
start
time.
to think.
So actually, when you really come down to it, when you had this physical disability, that was the best thing that ever happened in your life.
It was. It absolutely was.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure you didn't send cards out to everybody and say, "This is great, I'm sick." but when you come
Well,
to,
it's funny because it really did take 6 years for me to really embrace that was the best thing that had happened to me.
yeah, but still, it happened. You know, how many people live their life up to that point where it never happens? And there's too many people out there doing that right now. They get up, they go to work, they come back, they don't like the job, they're not friendly with people, and they just can't express themselves anymore. And it's a shame that we have a population that there's a lot of people out there like that.
Right. I'm so busy, we walk around wearing it as if it's our badge of honor.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm busier than you. Oh, I'm busier than you.
Yeah.
That's not how to live.
No. I got a T-shirt that says that. Now, big picture time management. What do we mean by that? Big picture time management.
A lot of my clients will say, I can, if I could only have an extra hour each day, if I could only have an extra day each week, or however they want to phrase it. And my question to them will always be, well, what will you do with it?
Yeah.
And they're like, well, what do you mean? I said, well, if I just give you an extra hour, magic poof, here's an extra hour. If you don't know why you want that, it doesn't matter what we're doing. And so that's where I say, let's look at the big picture. What do you want out of your life? And what do you want, what are your goals? Like you said, you wake up 30 years later and realize where you are now.
Yeah.
Well, let's, not make that 30 years if we can help it.
Yeah.
Let's look at the big picture first and then align everything to go in line with that. So can I share a story with you about that?
Oh, please.
Okay. I had a client who said, I'm so busy all the time, everything I do, and I talk about this a little bit in the book. Every night I'm busy, I'm doing everything that is so busy. And she said, what can I do? What can I get rid of? And I said, well, I don't know. What are you doing? And so we started to look at her calendar, and there were activities that she was scheduled like almost every night all week. And she had kids, and, there was all these things that she wanted to do. And I asked her, why are these here? And she said, because they're always there. This book club happens every other Wednesday. And this meeting happened, and so just because it was always there, she thought it always needed to be there. And until we could identify what's important, she just kept doing what she'd always done because she'd always done it.
Sure.
And hadn't thought about it. And so we were able to identify that she really didn't love book club. She did when she started it 4 years ago. But as time went on, people left. And it wasn't the same group of people, and it didn't feel the same need for her anymore.
Very
And so we
interesting.
were able
Let
to
me hold you up for a second because this is very important. It's what happened was she got an identity through the book club. The book club ended up redefining itself. Now all of a sudden it wasn't what it was when she walked in, and the people who were there were not the people who accepted her in the beginning. And so she's sitting there in the middle of a book club without an identity.
Right. And, she started that, Michael, because she needed to get away from the house because her kids were little.
Yeah. No, I
But
got
her
it
kids
loud and
grew.
clear.
She didn't have that same need.
Yeah. And very important also that one of the things I know you talk about, it has to do with you can think about this all day long. You can discover all of the problems and why they are, but there is one more thing. You got to take action.
Yes. My favorite saying, and if you know who said this, please tell me so I can give proper credit, but if nothing changes, nothing changes.
Yeah, I don't know who said that,
And
but it was great.
Yeah, I know. I would love to give credit to the right person because that is not my thought, but I use it. So one of the most important pieces, and I love to learn. But learning for the sake of learning sometimes isn't enough, and you want to turn it into action.
Yeah.
And so that's one of the most important pieces, I think, about this book is that every chapter has action steps. It causes you to take a moment, stop, and think about what you've read and how you can apply it to your life so you can start to live the life that you were meant to live, not necessarily the life you're currently so busy in.
Sure. No question about it. And it's taking the time to say, oh, that's who I am. When you look in the mirror and you realize that that's you looking back at you and you're not hurrying and you want to get out of there and you don't remember if you combed your hair or not. I mean, I think that's really critical.
Right, absolutely.
No, very important. Okay, now, when we really come down to this, do you think that the majority of the population falls under this category to some degree or another?
I think so. And like you said, to some degree or another.
Yeah.
Sometimes, like I always call it, for some people, it's like situational disorganization.
Yeah.
Or situational time management challenges where life experiences happen, or big life events and life changes happen.
Yeah.
And someone who's normally very good at time management, all of a sudden, due to big events, become very disorganized.
Yeah.
Or you know how like you draw that line in the sand and then you'll start moving it a little bit and a little bit and a little bit, and all of a sudden you're like, where'd the line go? And so sometimes it's a gradual progression into time management challenges.
Sure. Let's add something to this. I was thinking about this as you were talking. Let's do a hypothetical situation here. You're my daughter. I'm your father. I am in that mess that you're talking about. From the second I get up, not the minute, from the second I get up till the time I go to bed, I'm busy. And so I don't pay attention to you. What kind of a model is that when you really come down to it? What kind of a model is that? I have probably destroyed your life because of that, because that's what you've learned, that you're not going to get any attention paid to you, and it's going to carry on through everything else that you do in life. So it's not just the effect on you, it's the effect on those around you.
Right. Kids model what's taught, not what's taught.
Sure. No, yeah, loud and clear. When it really comes down to it, I remember, what was it, the movie, I think it was called Our Town. And there was a scene in there where the woman had passed away, and she was up in heaven, and she was talking to an angel. And they said, you can go back for one day. Just pick the day you can go back for one day on earth. So she said, great. So she picked her 8th birthday. So she closed her eyes. She opened her eyes. There she was in her bedroom. She's all dressed up. It's her birthday. She's excited. She's back. And she gets on the stairway, and she sees her dad. She says, Daddy, look at me. It's my 8th birthday. Look at my new clothes. Da-da. And her father looked at her and said, don't bother me right now. I got to go out and make the money to pay for all this. So she walks downstairs, and her mom's standing there, and she said, Mom, look at me. I'm all dressed up. It's my birthday. Look at my new outfit. And her mother says, not now. I've got to go make the cake and everything for the party. And she stood there, and she got tears in her eyes, and she looked up in heaven, and she said, I want to come back. It's too hard down here.
Mm-hmm.
That's it.
Right.
Yeah. We're in such a rush, we don't pay attention to the people who need to be paid attention to.
Right.
Yeah. I'm just slowing down.
I know. I'm taking a deep breath on my end too, Michael.
Okay, but that's really what it's all about. It's not only for you; it's for the people that are around you. And if you're the mom or dad of a preteen or teenager, you better think twice before you do what you do, because these kids get into trouble today, and they get into trouble because they're taught to get into trouble.
Right.
Yeah. Okay, I pick the book up, I read it page by page, cover to cover. What's my takeaway? What do I, Michael, the reader, get that I did not have before I read this book?
That the emphasis is on action. It's on awareness followed by action. And everyone learns differently. And so there's a lot of different takes on the same situation. But it's figuring out where you want to be and then the steps to get you there.
Okay, now, the name of the book is, Your Time, Your Life, A Busy Woman's Guide to Simplifying Your Day. But that also applies to men too, doesn't it?
It does. It absolutely does. This book was originally written for members in the direct sales MLM, network marketing industry, which are primarily women. However, the concepts apply to women, men, across the board.
By the way, were you driving a pink car?
Yes, it applies directly to those who drive the pink car.
I got it. I heard you. Okay. That's great. All right. By the way, I want to thank you so much for being here. And before we go, website where we can find you and find the book.
What I would love to do to ease people through the book is to let them go to schedulewithlisa.com, and there they can receive a complimentary strategy session and then a link to download the book for free.
Wonderful.
Because I want folks to take action.
And I hear you loud and clear. And by the way, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much.
And take care. Bye-bye.
You too.